Those gunmen storming a museum near Tunisia's parliament. Authorities say at least 19 innocent people were killed. Most of the victims are foreign tourists. A security officer and a museum worker are also said to be among the dead. Two of the gunmen reportedly killed during the armed standoff, and now there are reports that as many as 3 gunmen may still be on the loose. We have some amateur video, as we've been showing you throughout the day here on Fox News, that's really detailing for us the panic during the evacuation. Terrified tourists escaping from the museum through the parliament building. The attack happening in the birthplace of the Arab Spring. No one group is claiming responsibility for this attack, but one Tunisian official says they were Islamists. Let's bring in Grant Rumley, research analyst at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. He just was recently in Tunisia last November as an election observer. So with having that experience on the ground, Grant, who do you think is responsible for this attack?
Well, I think we don't know at this moment. We've seen quite a number of groups, some with connections to ISIS, some with connections to other terror groups, laud the attack, praise the attack, but whether or not that extends past the rhetoric into actual logistical support, we just don't know at this time. The facts on the ground are still developing.
It's certainly a good note of caution, as there have been those to be quick to judge or point fingers. There's a lot going on in the region, Grant, and to be perfectly frank, we haven't spoken about Tunisia in quite some time, probably since the al-Qaeda-style flag was raised over our embassy there in 2012. Tunisia hasn't been among the top countries that we've talked about when we've talked about upheaval in the region. What can you tell us about what's actually happening inside the country that could make it ripe for attacks like this?
Well, I think if you're a terror group and you're in Tunisia and you're looking to severely damage the economy and the political system right now, you couldn't have picked a more devastating target than this museum. The Bardo Museum is located in a complex near the parliament. It's a frequent spot for tourists to come and visit. And tourism makes up a large chunk of Tunisia's GDP. It makes up a huge bit of their economy. So by attacking tourists and by killing foreigners and then shooting into the parliament, which was in session, you're sending a message to the Tunisian people, to the Tunisian government, and to the world in general that you have some type of leverage over the status quo in day-to-day life.
Did you feel any anxiety being on the ground there in Tunisia for your safety?
No. Not when I was there, no. There was a broad enthusiasm for the elections. There was a healthy and vigorous debate on the ground about the nature of democracy in the country and in the region in general, and there was a lot of enthusiasm, though most officials would point out that the #1 concerns facing the country was the economy and this sort of domestic radicalization that's happening. They're sending a lot of fighters abroad. There are unstable areas within the country. It's a major concern for the Tunisian government. I think today it brought those events to the fore.
Now, and that's an interesting question that comes up. We've often pointed to Tunisia as a bright spot in the Arab Spring. If that is the case, then why are so many Tunisians going across the borders to join terrorist groups?
Well, I think what we're seeing now are the potential effects of a region in turmoil. Neighboring Libya has been, its civil war has involved Egypt when they executed those Coptic Christians, and Egypt responded by airstrikes. The southeast border between Tunisia and Libya has been an extremely volatile area. There's been a lot of groups moving back and forth. There's been active recruitment of Tunisian youth from terror groups within Libya. So I think in general what we're seeing is a region that is incredibly unstable, and that these fringe groups that rise up are casting a wider net, so to speak. They're trying to recruit from more and more countries.
Have we been doing enough as Americans to help foster the forces for democracy, for more pro-Western thinking within this new Tunisia that has emerged post-Arab Spring?
Well, I think Tunisia presents a unique opportunity to the United States, and I think that's why we'll see a large concern over the events of today. This is one of the largest terror attacks that's ever hit Tunisia, and from a practical standpoint, the U.S. will not want to see other terror groups gain hold in Tunisia. They can use it as a launch pad into other countries, potentially, into neighboring Arab countries as well. And from an ideological standpoint, the U.S. needs Tunisia to be stable. It's a point for the U.S. to show that democracy and Islamism can exist peacefully, that there can be peaceful transitions in government, and that this model can be exported and prosper in the Middle East.
Interesting, because if Tunisia isn't the bright spot anymore post-Arab Spring, then who assumes that position? Which country? And that's really a big question. Grant, we'd love to have you back on the program. Thank you so much for the time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.